Have you ever thought about how maybe, just maybe, the English we use today could be completely different in the future?
Interesting question.
And I'm not just talking about slang, I mean like a total shift.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Like English getting a 2.0 upgrade, all thanks to AI.
Whoa, that's a pretty wild thought.
Right. It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what we're diving into today.
All right, so what's got you so fired up about the future of English?
Well, we're diving into this fascinating article by a guy named Szymon Makajewski.
Makajewski, okay, I know that name. He's big into learning and technology, right?
Totally. He's all about how we learn and how that's going to change, way down the road.
Right. And what's he saying about English?
So he calls this potential shift English 2.0, where AI basically reshapes how our language evolves.
AI taking the wheel on language?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Exactly. And the way he sees English, it's like a programming language for our thoughts.
Wait, hold on. How is English anything like a programming language? I mean, it's full of, quirks and exceptions and...
I know, right? That's the part that really blew my mind. But he makes a really interesting point.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does English become code?
Well, think about coding for a second. You have specific rules, structures.
Syntax. Yeah, like you got to use the right commands in the right order.
Right. And English is similar, right? We have grammar, vocabulary, those are our rules.
So are you saying English is like the code and our thoughts are like the program?
Exactly. And just like one programming language can be used to create games or apps or whatever.
Right. Endless possibilities from something simple to something super complex.
Yeah. English lets us express this insane range of stuff, from Shakespeare
to some groundbreaking scientific discovery.
Exactly. It's crazy flexible, which is why it's so powerful for sharing knowledge globally.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this. So where does AI come into all of this?
Well, it's like handing a bunch of super smart programmers the task of optimizing English itself.
Optimizing, so streamlining it, making it more efficient.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but.
Uh-oh, there's always a but.
Well, with something as nuanced and complex as language, optimization can have some weird side effects.
Right, like what happens to all the poetry of language? The little quirks that make it interesting.
That's exactly what Makajewski is getting at. And he actually contrasts this English 2.0 with newspeak from George Orwell's 1984.
Ooh, 1984. That's getting a little dark, isn't it?
Oh man, 1984, that whole book is basically a masterclass in freaking people out about the future.
Right, and newspeak is the ultimate example.
Totally. For those who haven't read it or maybe need a little refresher, what was Orwell even getting at with newspeak?
So imagine this dystopian world where language is deliberately simplified, stripped down to the bare bones.
And why would anyone do that?
Control, my friend. That was the whole point of newspeak.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The idea was if you limit the words people can use, you limit their thoughts.
It's like if you can't even think certain things, you can't rebel against the powers that be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's chilling, right? And really effective, at least in the world Orwell created.
It's like trying to explain, the feeling of awe or the beauty of a sunset with 5 basic words.
Right. You lose all the nuance, all the complexity of human experience.
But this English 2.0 concept, this AI-driven thing, that's different, right? It's not about, limiting us.
That's the key distinction Makajewski makes. While newspeak aimed to restrict thought, AI-driven language evolution, in theory, could actually make us better communicators.
So instead of dumbing down language, it's like AI could help us unlock its full potential.
Exactly. Imagine, AI tools that help us write with incredible clarity and precision. No more misinterpretations, no more ambiguity.
That would be amazing. Imagine legal contracts where every single clause is crystal clear.
Right, or scientists from different countries all collaborating on some groundbreaking research paper, no language barriers, because AI is there to translate and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, yeah, now that you mention it, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing, especially that whole cross-cultural thing. That's what the internet did for information access, but for understanding across different languages and cultures.
Exactly. And think about it, no more struggling with grammar rules in school. Students can actually focus on the good stuff.
The good stuff? You mean actually learning and thinking critically?
Exactly. Mastering concepts, exploring different fields in depth. It's about using AI to make learning deeper, not replacing it altogether.
Okay, I'm feeling a little better about the whole robot overlord scenario now, but I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Didn't Makajewski have that whole section about the potential downsides?
He did. He calls it the hold on a minute corner. And he brings up some really important concerns. Like, even if we're talking about optimizing language with the best of intentions, who decides what better even means?
That's a good point. Like what one culture might consider efficient and to the point, another might see as, I don't know, losing the beauty and poetry of language.
Precisely. And if we're not super careful, standardizing language, even with AI's help, could erase those differences, those unique ways of seeing the world.
It's like, imagine only having one flavor of ice cream for every dessert, forever.
Right. Efficient, maybe, but incredibly boring. And a little soul-crushing after a while, don't you think?
Totally. And, English already has a way of, dominating other languages and cultures. It's almost like everyone assumes that one global language is the goal, even if it means losing something valuable along the way.
It's a valid concern, definitely. And it makes you wonder, at what cost? And that actually leads to another really crucial point Makajewski brings up. And it kind of gets to the heart of, why this whole topic is so unsettling for a lot of people.
Over-reliance on AI. Yeah, that's definitely a biggie. If we get to the point where we're using AI to write our emails, summarize reports, even just to have basic conversations.
Do we, lose something essential along the way?
Right, like those basic writing and thinking skills that, kind of make us human.
It's what makes us different from, sophisticated parrots just mimicking patterns.
Oh. You know what reminds me of? I was reading this article about how using GPS all the time can actually weaken your sense of direction over time. Yeah. It's like our brains are wired to adapt, but not always in ways that are good for us in the long run. So is it the same with language? If we're not careful, are we going to forget how to think for ourselves?
Now that is a chilling thought, and it's something Makajewski hints at. He mentions how some academic journals are now, get this, scrutinizing papers that seem too well written.
Wait, really? They think good writing is suspicious.
Yeah, because they're worried it might be AI generated.
That is both hilarious and terrifying. What are these academics supposed to do? Purposely make their writing worse.
Right, throw in a few typos just to prove they're human. It highlights this weird tension where AI is pushing us to either hyper-optimize our language or, in a way, to dumb it down to prove our humanness.
It makes you wonder, what will good writing even mean when AI is so good at it?
Exactly. And that's a whole other can of worms we can explore, but for now.
Let's bring it back to English 2.0. It seems like this could go either way. A powerful tool for understanding or
a recipe for disaster.
Right, and that's what I think Makajewski is trying to stress. The choices we make now about AI and language, they have huge consequences down the road.
Totally. It's not about being afraid of new technology, but about approaching it thoughtfully.
AI should be a tool that helps us express ourselves better, not something that overpowers us,
100%. And that all comes back to remembering that AI, at least for now, doesn't actually understand language the way humans do.
Right. It's more it's really good at recognizing patterns. It can write a sentence that's grammatically perfect.
But it doesn't necessarily understand the subtle nuances, the emotions, the shared human experience behind the words. It's like
a parrot mimicking human speech.
The perfect analogy. And that's why we can't just hand over control of language to AI, right?
We have to be active participants in how it evolves.
Exactly. We have to keep asking the tough questions.
Because if we don't,
we risk losing something far more profound than just a few grammar rules. We risk losing what makes us unique, what makes us human.
So to all our listeners out there, next time you're using your fancy AI grammar checker or that translation app that seems kind of magical,
or even just chatting with a chatbot that seems a little too smart for its own good,
remember, you're not just using a tool, you're shaping the future of language. So stay curious, stay critical, and keep those human voices loud and clear.